Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys, trader and technical analyst for the last 14 plus years. We're going to check in on the quantum stock sector, a number of names that have had huge runs at this point. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a cautionary statement before we get to the charts and see where we stand in the short term. But essentially the statement is we've run an absurd amount at this point in time. You know, in my career, I've seen many 1,000+% runs back in cannabis penny stocks multiple times, back in 3D printing stocks, back in e-cigarette stocks, back in, there's just been so many of them along the way, crypto multiple times, of course. So I have a lot of experience with these kinds of moves, and we have to remind ourselves that what goes up in a straight fashion comes down hard. And when we top, we're going to be looking for 30 to 50% pullbacks and multiple weeks and multiple months of consolidation. What you see when these kinds of euphoria moves take place is the potential of a future technology. No doubt, quantum computing has potential, but because the stock market is so fast moving in the sense that it takes a button click for us to get positions and capital to flow into things and to get excited about the future, meanwhile, the technology lags so far behind the stocks. The stocks outrun the pace of technology very quickly, meaning, maybe quantum computing has commercial viability in 5 years, 3 years, 7 years. I have no idea. But what I know is that these stocks are already pricing in years of, potential fundamental developments. I am a technical analyst. I do 85% technicals, 15% fundamentals. Back in my earlier days, I read a lot of balance sheets and, became aware of dilution, convertible debt, and what they do to stocks. And I haven't looked at these names from a fundamental perspective in depth, so I'm not going to speak to them specifically, but I would say the weakest, as we're going to look on the charts, is, if you put a gun to my head and you have to pick a bear, what's it going to be? It's QUBT, no revenue. They announced a contract with NASA for 5 figures, and the stock goes up 9 figures in market cap that day. This is just hype and euphoria, and again, a bunch of these stocks are going to top on this current run and never see these prices again. Let me say that again. A bunch of these stocks will never see these prices again because if they don't have revenue, if they're not profitable, they are reliant on selling shares to raise capital to fund their operations and to pay their executive teams. And that means dilution and constant downward pressure on the stock over a long period of time after the hype and euphoria buying is done. And obviously, the broader market being so strong the last 2 years is a factor in what we're seeing. And as soon as you see fear in the broader market, whenever that happens next, the names that don't have a proven track record are some of the first to get ditched. So all that said, there's still significant opportunity. I've been day trading them in both directions like a madman over the last month. And, if I bought and held, I would have more gains right now. But this is the way it always goes. Holders outperform me during the euphoria stage, and then once the top is hit, I don't give any of my profits back, and I leapfrog in terms of the gains as the holders then get back a bunch. So again, we're going to look at things now from a technical perspective on the charts, but I just want to make it very clear that you shouldn't be looking for any long-term positions at this point. If you're looking long, it's for shorter-term positions. Every position is protected with a stop loss. And we just know that if you want to look long term, you're waiting for weekly consolidation in some of these names. Some of these names haven't seen weekly consolidation since running 1,000% plus. So that is my disclaimer of just be cautious. Don't get caught up in the hype and euphoria. At this point, we're not just getting started. The technology is just getting started. The stocks are not. They're very different things. Let's get to the charts. All right, so also full disclaimer, these stocks at this point have run harder than I thought they would. I started giving these cautionary statements a few weeks ago, and there is still no sign of a top on some of these names like RGTI. But again, we've run 2,300% in 3 months of trading. That is not sustainable. When we see weekly consolidation, we will pull back 40% from wherever we top out. So again, you just got to ensure that you're not holding the bag during a 40% drawdown if you're trying to chase and buy late. Could some of these companies make it in the long run and be a big winner long term? Absolutely, it's a possibility. The probabilities of you picking the winner is definitely low. But, if you were in early and have a comfortable profit cushion and you want to let some position ride out and you're choosing a number of names to increase your probabilities that you get a winner, that's perfectly fine. That is the way to do it if you're going to be looking longer term. Again, me, short-term trading opportunity, insane volatility. It's such a gift for a full-time day trader to have this kind of volume and liquidity and double-digit percentage moves in both directions almost every day. I keep saying, this trading environment has made my December. December was my most profitable month in 2024, a big bonus at the end of the year. And essentially, half of my entire goal of the year was December gains, all because of this volatility and not even requiring swing trading. I do some swing trading, but it's mostly day trading just to start every day with a fresh, clean slate and not care at all what direction we go in on that day. All right, so there is an ETF, QTUM. The holdings of this ETF are the major names, IONQ, RGTI, QBTS. What's missing? QUBT. Why? I don't know. There are fundamental red flags with that company. Again, I looked into it for like a half hour. I looked at their balance sheet. I looked at their cash flow. I looked at their, just a quick note on QUBT. Again, why would it be my long term? Number one, it started weekly consolidation. Most names have not. Number two, again, the NASA contract that I mentioned. And number three, they diluted twice on the way up at an average share price of $3.75 before the price ran to $27. Clearly, if management thought that their stock was undervalued, they would have waited to dilute it $7, $10. They diluted before this move even got legs behind it. That to me is a little bit of insight into what they feel the correct valuation of the company is. Anyways, that's all I'm going to say about fundamentals from this point forward. Now it is straight up technicals. But this ETF also has holdings like, MicroStrategy. That's Bitcoin. What's it doing? I don't know. But just be aware that, this is the best exposure to the quantum sector that you can get. But I've just been focusing on the major names. RGTI has been my big trader. RGTI and QBTS is essentially what I trade the most. But there is an ETF to keep an eye on, and it's a nice clear pattern. This is just your standard equilibrium where we top out, set a higher low, lower high, higher low. We're in a tightening range. We're approaching resistance, which is 84.57. If that breaks, the daily uptrend continues nice and strong. If we reject from 84.57 to start this coming week, then we're going to keep tightening up for another couple of days. But the direction that we break this tightening range is worth paying attention to as far as whether or not we're going to begin weekly consolidation. We've essentially gone up, let's see, not a huge amount a lot for an ETF, but almost 50% since the last clear weekly consolidation. But again, it's all going to be dependent on this short-term tightening range. And the most important support is that higher low now, which is down at 80.80. IONQ is what I use as my gauge. This is market cap wise, 10 billion market cap, roughly speaking. It's the larger of the names. So for me, this is the fundamental leader. It's not the strongest name, but I use it as a gauge of what's IONQ doing and how does that apply to everything else. And it's still very strong, obviously. We've had these brief periods of weekly consolidation that have just been bull flags. And we just set a new support level at 38.46. That's the most important level going forward. Again, if you lose these stair steps, you lose the momentum. And that's going to be very significant. But it's 38.46 as the most important level. Big 2-day move here. And here we are testing this high. And so that all-time high, which is in play this coming week, 48.56. If we reject from that level, we're just going to watch this range. Again, 38.46 and 48.56 are the two levels that I care about right now. Can keep an eye on an uptrending resistance line just because the recent bull breaks have not seen a whole lot of follow through. Wrong line. So I'll draw a line here just as a bit of a visual guide. Something like this. But again, just line in the sand levels. We built a base of support at 36.54. That's now the most important level for me. All right, now we have a new level. A little higher up, 38.46 is now the most important level. But that is the strongest weekly close that we've ever seen, and we are still holding strong. Again, we are up a little under 1,000% over the last few months. What goes straight up pulls back significantly, but the top is not in just yet. Every week, I'm watching for signs that the top is in. And that ensures that I'm very diligent and disciplined with my stop losses in both directions. Shorts have been blown up on this move, right? If you don't have a tight short stop, you're blown up. But there will come a point in time. Bulls, it's been very forgiving to be a bull. There will come a point in time where we do hit a top. We do see prolonged consolidation for weeks, if not months. And you won't want to not have a stop as a long during that period for the same reason you don't want to have no stop as a short in this period. Fundamental shorts are getting beat up because they look at QUBT. Someone looked at QUBT at $15 and said, this makes absolutely no sense. I'm shorting this name. And then less than 36 hours later, they're down almost 50%. So this is the stage of euphoria where fundamentals don't matter. It's the stage where companies just throw quantum into their name. I mean, we saw it with blockchain buzzwords, right? Throw it into your name, you're going to get a pump just because people Google search, what quantum stocks. And if your stock pops up, people are going to buy it. That's the extent of fundamental research that a lot of people do. And then professional traders like myself know how this works. And we don't care what the fundamentals are. We'll jump on and trade that momentum and volume as long as it's there. So IONQ, we got our levels. RGTI is the lead bull. I've been trading this name the most because it's clearly the strongest. And we had that 1275 prior all-time high. And again, IONQ is at all-time highs, but a number of these names are not because they've been pulling back for years before this move. So it was what I called a 4-hour cup and handle. The criteria was there. It's a bit V-shaped, but if you zoom in, it's more rounded. That's subjective. But it was a double top, a bull flag, consolidation retracement, and it looked very likely that we were going to hit all-time highs because this double top was at the prior all-time high. It was just a great setup for building pressure for another leg up. And so we got that leg up. And, again, just an example of how there are days where if you look at my trades on the day, I've got 30 orders of RGTI on my day. And that's just because I scale in and scale out of trades. So I'll make 2 buys and then I'll sell 3 times. There's 5 trades right there. But an example, Friday morning, I was actively longing and shorting this zone. I would short when it got over 20 and I'd stick my stop with some wiggle room over the high. And then I would long or cover in the 1940s and 1950s. And again, this is all over the span of 40 minutes. But again, it's a professional trader's dream to drop 5%. And then, 4 minutes later, these buttons are throwing me off. 4 minutes later, you're up 6%. And then 4 minutes later, you're down. I mean, I'm just quick scalping both directions. Just give me 2% in both directions, 2% up, 2% down, lock it in, lock it in, lock it in. Ended up leaving a short runner, covered it into the low of the day a little bit early. Ended up buying. I should have had my orders in place. Everything that I'm saying, I posted in the chat room. But again, just watching, zoomed in, 1770, there was a hidden buy order where there was a small bid and a ton of shares slammed 1770 and it didn't budge. It was an iceberg order. And I could see that just by watching the bid and the ask and the volume. And so I jumped in as soon as I saw that. Why? Because I can then just put my stop at 1769. And I can say, if that iceberg holds, I'm playing off of it. I got filled at 1779. I put my stop at 1769. I'm risking probably 13 cents with some slippage if we did break support. And then, again, just scaling out into the 5-minute bounce. I think I was all out by the 1870s or so. But just some examples of the short-term trading that I do in these names. The back burners have been beautiful. Oversold conditions in a euphoria run-up. If you don't know what the back burner is, Google Chart Guy's back burner because that is how I make the most money in my trading career. And it is prime for blue sky breakouts and not chasing, but buying the dips along the way. So, all that said, now what for RGTI? Well, if the bears are going to prove anything in the short term, we would have to confirm an hourly downtrend. So we have the all-time high during regular trading hours. If we fail that level and break 1770, we confirm an hourly downtrend and we start daily consolidation. So we zoom out and we watch the last daily support, 1440. Again, that's a long way down. Doesn't look like it, but percentage-wise it is. But if that level holds, the daily uptrend remains. Again, I look at this weekly chart and we have not seen weekly consolidation since going straight up 2,000%. That in my brain tells me weekly consolidation is inevitable. Do not go long here unless it's just a short-term day trade. Protect every position because of the immense volatility and watch for signs of weekly consolidation shaping up. I will potentially short this sector for some swing trades if I can get a nice, comfortable profit cushion for a setup. But RGTI probably wouldn't be my top choice because it's been a lead bull at this point. QBTS, weekly inside bar, same deal. The weekly chart running straight up to the tune of 1,000+%. Daily chart, if the bears are going to shift momentum, it will look like a head and shoulders, which is possible. If we break 883, the low of Friday, on Monday, we will have a daily lower high set, and it's then all about 780. Because if we break 780, we confirm a daily downtrend for the first time since this entire move got going. That will be a glaring signal. Top is in for now. What does for now mean? I don't know. I take it a day at a time, a week at a time to get more information, but could easily be weeks, if not months. So if I'm looking bearish, I'm looking at QBTS because I like this potential bearish setup. Again, it's every day at a time, clean slate. Where do we stand pre-market? What's the broader market doing? All these questions come into play, but I do like this setup. I'm scouting this setup as a bear. And again, no all-time high. That's up at 1323. But if we confirm the daily downtrend, weekly consolidation is underway, and I'll then be looking down, the next level. If we confirm a daily downtrend, I'm looking down at 560 from there. And just like that, that would be a 50% pullback from the high. So again, just gotta be protective. If you are holding long-term, you've got to sit through 40 to 50% drawdowns. And if you're willing to accept that, that's perfectly fine. That's your own game plan and strategy. Just know that they're coming. It's inevitable when you run this hard. QUBT, so we've lost the daily uptrend at this point. It's the weakest of the major names that I follow. So here was a higher low. Here was a higher low at 1622. We lost that. Again, similar setup to QBTS, where if this is a daily lower high and we drop down and break 1520, it'll be the first confirmed daily downtrend of this entire move. And again, at this point, the weekly consolidation that has already taken place, 44%. So again, this weekly chart, is there any major red flags? No, there's consolidation that we know is inevitable. But again, 44% is nothing when you've run up 1,000% plus. That is a guarantee to happen at some point. So prepare yourself for it. So this is why it's the weakest of the major names, because weekly consolidation is already underway. And again, you better believe fundamental bears are circling a name like this more so than the other names. And this is an example of where the fundamentals and the technicals are potentially aligning here to show us the same thing. Weakest chart technically, weakest stock fundamentally. Again, I'm not the person to say that as I have not in-depth analyzed every single name, but at a glance, red flags. Another name, QMCO. I see people trashing the fundamentals of this name. I haven't read their balance sheet, no idea. But again, just simple daily consolidation. You don't get monster moves without monster pullbacks. 45% pullback, still in a daily uptrend. We're just looking for a daily higher low at this point. And so, inside bar on Friday, if we break 5707, that's a bull break. Bulls are trying to defend 50 psychological, but if we get the daily bounce going, there's a ton of space for a daily lower high. Just like QBTS, just like QUBT are potentially shaping up daily lower highs, we're going to look for a QMCO daily lower high as well. And then again, weekly consolidation. If we confirm the daily downtrend, will be underway. We'll very quickly be 50% plus off the high. And then we'll look for a weekly higher low eventually. Shout out Red Devil in the Chart Guys community pointing out this name. Is this a potential laggard? Maybe. Full disclosure, the volume here is a fraction. This is 1% of the dollar volume that the other names are putting up. So it's not getting much attention at this point, but it's a nice clear pattern. 1320 must hold. Clear resistance 1629, tightening range. The question is, when the sector tops into weekly consolidation, which is coming sooner rather than later, if that happens and everything drops together, we need to make note of that, because sometimes what you see is the leaders top out and then the profits rotate around to the laggards and then the laggards get a leg up. that's possible to take place. But for me, I will be a lot more cautious as a bull when daily downtrends are confirming and weekly consolidation is underway. So again, I'm still very open to both directions. I'm scouting daily lower highs for potential swing shorts very cautiously. But, RGTI, I'll be looking for a bounce the next hourly oversold conditions that we see, which has been the time to be buying on the way up. But again, just more cautious at this point in the rally than I have been recently. So RGTI, strongest technically speaking. IONQ, watch that all-time high test as the market cap leader in the sector. Again, 10 billion or so. These other names, more like 1 to 2 to 3 billion. At least RGTI, QUBT, etc. And that's just be protective. Establish a game plan. And just know that weekly consolidation can easily pull back 40 to 50% from the highs wherever we top out. All right. Feel free to ask any questions. Appreciate you watching. Let's see how it shakes out.